What if the reason divorce is destroying you can be explained in one brutal formula? Your suffering equals how much you value your ex divided by how much you value yourself. And when your self worth hits zero, divorce doesn't just hurt, it absolutely wipes you out. Today's guest has helped over 1,000 men crawl out of that wreckage. He uses neuroscience to explain why so many men spiral after divorce, and more importantly, how to rebuild. Not just emotionally, your brain, your body, your confidence, your custody strategy, and your identity. And whether you're living this right now or trying to understand someone who is, this episode might completely change how you see divorce recovery. Welcome back. Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Welcome everybody to another episode of Divorcing Strong podcast. I'm Becky Sampson. I'm your host. And gosh, I know I say this almost every single time. I'm very excited for this episode. And there's very specific reasons why. It's because this is one of the first times we're really going to dive deep into what the experiences is for men going through divorce. There's not a lot of support. And I have always been I shouldn't say always, but for the last, I'd say 15, 16 years, I have been a real supporter of men getting the support that they need. And there's not a lot out there. And the men also are not typically the type that are going to be asking for help. And so I'm excited when I'm able to find someone that is in this field, that is diving in and that is supporting them and able to give them the tools that they need to get beyond and through a divorce, because it's super, super important. And I'm grateful to be back on. It's been about a week. We've got 3 shows today. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to be live also on all the YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then also we're on all of the audio platforms now, and we're releasing 3 a week. So please join us on all the Spotify, Apple Play, I think it is Apple Podcasts. So all of the audio formats. So we're so excited today. And so on today's episode of Divorcing Strong, I'm joined with Rene Garcia. He's the founder of I hope I say this, MeDiCo. He's like smiling. A structured recovery and reinvention program designed specifically for men navigating separation and divorce. Because many people going through divorce, the most disorienting part isn't just the legal battle. It's the moment they realize that the version of themselves that they built their lives around no longer exists. The routines are gone, the roles are gone, and suddenly so is your sense of purpose. Rene has worked with and consulted thousands of men faced that exact moment. Featured in the New York Times, he brings a strategic, data-informed approach that challenges the idea that healing is just about time or emotional processing. Instead, through his work, Rene helps men understand what's happening neurologically during divorce, why they feel stuck, and how to rebuild with structure, discipline, and clarity. His method integrates neuroscience, behavioral strategy, fitness, dating, reinvention, and custody dynamics to create real transformation. This isn't about going back. It's about rebuilding stronger with intention. If you've ever wondered how to take your life back after everything falls apart, this conversation is going to meet you right where you are. Welcome to the show, Rene.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Excited to be here.
Oh, well, I am excited because I literally for years have been begging men to jump into this space to help men, because I know many years ago, there was a lot of men going through divorce and they were reaching out to me and I'm like, I'm not sure that I would support them, but I think they were looking for more validation from me than anything. And I really believe that men need to support men, women need to support women. And there are times and places for other, the other way around. However, I'm super glad to hear that you're here and in this space. So welcome and thank you for taking the time.
Totally fun.
Absolutely. Well, one of the questions I love to ask to start off this conversation is what's your backstory of what brought you into this field? And because it's not something that usually people decide they want to go into. And what makes you so passionate about helping men?
I've always been focused on, the mind, basically how guys think and progression and growth and development. I'm big on that. And during my second divorce, it was traumatic, right? It was a huge traumatic, and I did something that a lot of women tend to do when they get divorced. That they go through self-realization. They just develop like crazy. And that's what helps women move beyond the divorce. That's why the data shows that it's better, that women recover faster than men. And I started doing that. I did a lot of the self-reflection, all that kind of stuff. I not just worked out, but also developed myself. Did a lot of meditating, try to get better. And once during a Save My Wife, Keep Your Wife group, that I wrote a message to them saying, hey guys, it's okay, you could recover, et cetera, et cetera. And the response was phenomenal. I mean, I got incredibly amount of people just responding to me saying, yeah, these are guys that have been cheated on 4 or 5 times with their ex. I caught her again. These, and well, that was my worst case scenario. That would have been my worst case scenario, to see like 2 years into it and still be trying to get her back. When I wrote that message in the response, I said, wow, there's a need here. There's an absolute need here. So
that was during your second divorce. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. I'm divorced twice. My first wife and I, we're cool. We're totally cool. She's good people. We're friends. I actually have said before, like I'll say it, like, I love her, but not in that way anymore, clearly. But
by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like,
not at all.
I always say to people, some people that are threatened by the former spouses and like their affection or love or appreciation or gratitude or whatever it is towards them, I'm like, well, they were a part of your life for a big chunk of it. Why would I ask you to just close your heart to that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think that's healthy, but that's my own personal opinion.
No, and I agree with you, but a lot of guys will not do it. They'll stay in one way and they'll say they'll never forgive, which is, forgiveness is for yourself. It's you just move beyond the pain, and you've moved. Well, you look back and reflect and think, wow, what an experience. That's really what forgiveness is.
So it sounds like your second divorce, and it's much like mine too. The first one, we were able to still remain friends and do an interview and all that kind of stuff together. But the second one really is what taught me so much. And it sounds like that's the case with yours too. What was the catalyst for you to go, you know what, I really need to go deeper with this. I need to really figure out what yourself in that process?
Well, people think that I got over her really quick, and I was worried about that too. I really deeply cared about her. At the time, she was the love of my life. I never expected a second divorce. Never did. When this happened, I had a moment of reckoning, of clarity, that it was kind of like the betrayal was so beyond. I wasn't cheated on, I was betrayed. And I put it like a Roman general, right? And he's about to go to battle and war against the Carthaginians or whatever. And all of a sudden, right before he says, like, let's go to war, he gets betrayed by his subordinates and says, no, dude, like, you're not going to war. And what would the general do? It's confusing. It's like, wow, what happened? But when they reflect, it's almost like, okay, it's okay. It wasn't my fault. They have to accept it. And it was pure and utter acceptance. And that's what I did. It was pure and utter acceptance. So I recovered a lot faster than the average guy, but it had to do with just the trauma that I went through made me say, Rene, if you ever take her back, you're going to tell the world, you're going to tell your kids, you're going to tell yourself that you love her more than you love you. And
Yep.
that's not nothing that I'm willing to negotiate on. That's non-negotiable.
Well, and I think it's an important point to bring up that you can love yourself and be in a relationship. However, if you're in a relationship that is very toxic, it's very difficult. A lot of people do it, Rene. I know you've seen it too with men, is they literally put their own selves to the side to trying to save the marriage. And you can't make someone love you. You just can't. And or you can't make them be faithful. You can't. There's only so much you can do in a marriage, and when you see that's where it's headed, it is important to kind of look at, like, is this working for my kids and for myself in that? So I know you kind of talk a lot about in that discovery. Talk a little bit about the neuroscience part of it.
Okay,
um,
so there's a lot of theories, and it's just starting to come through that well, heartache or a broken
mhm.
heart, it's a lot like addiction. And I'm a recovering addict. I
Me
was addicted.
too.
Oh, you too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Love the sauce, man.
Yep.
But
Love the
but
recovery. Love the recovery.
yeah. But that was my first friend, right? And when people don't understand this, I kind of give them this analogy when they're going when they don't understand addiction. It's like, suppose you're having a drink and you're having a cool buzz, right? And you're a normie, you're not an addict or anything, and you're having a cool buzz, and then all of a sudden somebody tells you, hey, you see that feeling? You're gonna be like this for the rest of your life. That's it. That buzz you're feeling, it's the new you. You'd freak out, right? You'd freak out. And that's how sobriety was for me. It was like when I was getting sober, it was like, this is the new life, there's the new reality. I hated that. And so you go through withdrawals, you start missing the sauce,
Mhm.
you try to do things to compensate, and you just get a dopamine crash. And the
Mhm.
job is to completely regain that dopamine, and you're going to have to kickstart it. And a lot of that
Mhm.
is just movement, 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 and stop the rumination. A lot of people will ruminate and they think it's healthy. And all they're doing is they're scratching an itch until it bleeds and then it scars. And
Mm.
so I tell guys that they have to start forming new pathways, new love, loving themselves. When I do my customer intake form, one of the things that it takes it's about like 40 minutes or maybe 30 minutes into it that I ask them what happened. I want to learn so
Mhm.
much more about them, but they want to tell me right away what happened. Like, okay, when was your last physical? They'll say something like, well, it was last December. I remember well because that's when she told me that she wanted a divorce. I mean, I can't believe she left me.
So
My God,
so basically what you're doing is that they're stuck their neural pathway, right? They're wanting to discuss it and discuss it because they're trying to figure out, they're trying to connect the dots. That's what I see is when
Mhm.
I talk to these men is it's they're like, what in the heck happened? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're taking them out of that
Mhm.
to be able to talk about normal things in life and start rebuilding a stronger foundation. And then let's talk about that. Let's talk
Mhm.
about what happened and where their place was in it. It sounds like. Am I
Yeah,
doing
well,
it?
as a coach, my job is to find out what resources they have available to them and
Yes.
use them to their advantage. I honestly, unless really important to the narrative, I don't, whether she cheated on them, whether he cheated on
Yeah.
them,
Doesn't
it doesn't
matter.
matter. Yeah, the recovery is the recovery. And it's actually a lot easier than people think if they let it. The harder ones are the ones that are stuck in their ways. And I hate to say it, but it's usually like people who are MMA fighters or boxers because they know how to fight. They're fighters. They have that heart, that killer instinct. But that's the challenge with many of those guys. But it's actually easier the hard part of my job is this strategy behind the actual divorce and litigation. That the recovery is the fun part because it's about
Yeah. No, I know because and this is the things people always say that they can't move on in another relationship until they're healed. Well, what does that mean? What does that really I don't think any of us are healed enough to move in. I mean, maybe we do the work, right? The
Mhm.
work is really important. But I do like that you have a holistic way of looking at it. It's not just one part of it, it's your health, it's your mind, it's your body, it's your spirit. And that is kind of secondary to what happened to you, or you feel like it's happened to you. Why don't we look at it, what's happening for you? You know, maybe it's happening for you to get to where you need to. So you really, I can guess what you're saying is that you're spending a lot of your time with your creating a new neural pathway so that they can be built beyond.
Challenge them to dream. That's it. Challenge them to dream. A lot of people think that men, that we don't have a good pathway to, well, we just don't have a good social structure. So that's why we don't recover, because we keep the things within. That's not necessarily always the case. In fact, I have a medical background, right? And when I was doing psychiatry, at the VA, I asked my attending, should people with PTSD, why don't they talk about their problems? And she looked at me very interestingly. I said, do you know the data? I was like, no. So proving to me that there is such thing as a stupid question, because she gave me homework. So I read, and it turns out talking about your problems, the cathartic hypothesis, the Freudian version, it's debunked. You actually try to get avoid talking about it. Unless it just does not help. So the job is not to find out and recover and go back to what took place. It's there to dream, there to think bigger, there to think, man, dude, that was whatever, however she weighed, 120 pounds, whatever, that you were loading all of that on you, and it's time to let it go. Just let it go. And it's so refreshing, because it's kind of like a canvas. You still have the frame on it, but it's clean. And if you have children, they're going to love you for it, because you're living your life, and you become the dad, the father that you wanted to be.
So does that kind of go into the suffering formula? Like, why is the pain is a mathematical prediction, or why is it predictable?
Yeah, well, okay, so in the research I've done, the quality of life, the qual-salad study, that I call it, the most important part in a man's recovery, or in any recovery, I suppose, but the study was specifically done with men, so I can't really I don't want to misrepresent the study, but it was done only with men. And what was found was that the men, people usually think, oh, work out, this and that, but it was not one of those studies where you just ask a question and put yes, no. It was more an evaluation, a psychological analysis on it. Turns out that there were certain predictors that will help a man's recovery. And the number one thing is they got to love themselves more. A guy, they have to love themselves. And
do you find that's a major problem?
Yeah, a lot. They're not used to it. First of all, their self-esteem it's just down, right? Their self-esteem is incredibly busted. They're emasculated. They're broke. They have nowhere to go. They talk about a lot of them are bitter. They go to red, they start talking about the red pill, and all women are this and all women are that. And that's they won. That's what I think. You lost. No, not they won. They just lose when you do that. So the job is to get them to think bigger, to think of something bigger than themselves. And it begins with loving themselves.
So what is the first thing that you do, or what's something that you do with your clients to help them get to that, to make that shift, right? To shifting their attention to what happened to them, to loving them, and getting them to accept that?
Let them know that there are ways out. So give them answers. Every client is different. So if it's somebody that it starts off with the overall holistic approach. Once they sign in, they get a package, right? And it comes everything from a scale that just measures body fat, all that kind of stuff. And they start monitoring it, heart rate monitor to check the pulse. Exercise is going to be very important, but it's not because of the way people think, like, oh, I look good and all that stuff. That's great. That's gravy. But that's not why. It has to be a lifestyle, because exercise has been shown that it's been shown to be extremely effective in lowering grief and decreasing depression. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is get them beyond, validate what they're feeling. So a lot of guys will say, I know I shouldn't be saying this, but yeah, I guess I'm good looking. What the,
No, I know.
What's wrong with
That's so funny that you said that, because the first thing when I met my third husband, my husband now, he's amazing. But one of the first things out of his mouth, because he was married for 27 and a half years to a woman that never told him he was handsome. And he asked me, he says, do you think I'm cute? I'm like, are you kidding me? what? Like, and all my girlfriends are like, he is so handsome. And my little granddaughter, his granddaughter, will not let me call him cute. She's like, he's not cute, he's handsome. So yeah, I did find that was so surprising to me, that
Mhm.
that's how low his self-esteem was, is that he just thought he was nothing.
Mhm.
He's one of the most incredible men on the planet. I'm married to him. Thank you. But yeah, I can see that's what happens to these men they literally throw their whole life into a marriage and then are betrayed in whatever ways. And they're trying to save it and save it and save it. So yeah, self-esteem's a really big thing. What do you think is probably one of the number one mistake that they make? Um, you
Wow,
know,
there's a whole lot of mistakes that they made. First of all,
yeah.
they don't change. That's like the big one. They give it time. And I hate, I cannot tell you how much it bothers me when I hear give it time. That's such a cliche. And that's what people say when they don't know what to say. It's the lazy approach. I've heard a therapist tell somebody to give it time. And I thought, wow, there are strategic ways to go about it. And, I don't know if you've seen, there's the whole idea of, the wormhole. I don't know if you've ever seen like you know what a wormhole is. Okay, so I'm
Tell
going
us
to
about
show
it.
you. Okay, so here's the way it goes. Um, People will say, I don't know if you can see my writing. I'm doing it right now, right? So time, right? You go from A to B. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so it takes time. It's going to take some time, right? Why not, to get from A to B, you just make a hole and you're right there. So change it, right? Get there faster. And the way you do it is it's really focusing on yourself. And that means validating who you are. I
Mm.
want guys to feel so good about themselves when they're having sex with someone else, they're checking themselves out. That's how much I want them to love themselves. So, and that's what they need to do. So,
Well, and
you know,
how long what do you think is the most challenging thing to getting men to that point where they're just like, okay, I can now accept that I am a good person, regardless of what I've been told for all this time, or, what I've experienced.
it's not through any kind of it's not through affirmations that they do it. It's more they just do it, right? So okay, so I'll go shopping with them. I'll virtually shop. All right, this is your body type. This is what you got to look for. This, and I know everybody's at different price points, so I do ask about their affordability, how much they could afford, because I do. I mean, I'm wearing a $25 vest. I mean, it's not like, So and they're all over the place where people
Right.
can afford it. So it comes down with just their development and that aspect of it. Also meditating, also writing where they want to be in 5 years, and start focusing strictly on themselves. And guess what? Telling their family, their kids, whoever they want, that they got a divorce and recovery coach. That actually goes a long way, because that works in their favor. Even when they're dating, I tell guys, hey, tell your date that you got a divorce and recovery coach. Watch what happens.
Is
And
that hard for men to say?
it's easier than I thought. It's easier than I thought. I tell them two things. First of all, have them take a selfie with their date, right? And, okay. And I actually thought that was going to be a tough one, but it actually works out really well. And the other one is let them know that they don't want to repeat the same mistakes, so it's a healthy thing. So
Actually, the first thing that came to my mind when you said that, what would be healthy is that when you let other people know that you're getting support for something, then they can always, if something comes up and you're talking to they're talking to their friends, they can say, hey, what does your support group say? You know what I mean? It takes them back to, reminds them that they have the support that they have, and also reinforces that, that recovery, because I would imagine that, you and I both are in recovery. And so the first step of recovery is admitting that you have issues, right?
yeah.
Sometimes that's really, really hard state for somebody to get to. But once they get there, it's beautiful for them to see the transformation start happening, because they know that they're not alone. And I think that men oftentimes, and actually we can bring up the fact that men are 10 times more prone to take their life after divorce. And I think it is because that they feel like they're alone. They feel like they've lost everything. Have you experienced that and talked to people that you're working with that have those thoughts?
Fortunately, well, this is my worst case scenario. I hate this. It's terrifying. I'll get somebody from my group, not that I'm coaching, but like I'm in a Facebook group, and I'll get somebody and they threaten or wanting to take their life, and those are terrifying phone calls because
Mhm.
I have to get on right away, and I'm not. I guess if anybody, I'd be the best person, but I'm not qualified to talk
Right.
about that, but so it's terrifying. People that somebody from Ireland mentioned that, and I didn't know it. Do I call 911? Obviously not. But like it's walking them and just making sure that they have somebody to show up that is physically with them during that time. But yeah, it's happened several times where I've had people. It's usually under the influence, telling me that they want to off themselves, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's terrifying.
No, I remember not feeling qualified either. I remember my grandmother had just passed away, and she had all my grandfather's tools, and this guy came to buy her tools, and he was telling me he was going through a divorce. He had 5 kids or 6 kids, something like that. And because I kind of am in the divorce space all those years ago, even he would open up to me, and he would call me for support. And he was dragged through the legal system. He had to pay, I think it was $150,000 litigating, and 4 of his 5 kids were turned against him. And he was just felt absolutely just devastated. And he called me one night and he said, Becky, I can't do this anymore. And I knew I wasn't qualified. I said, let me have you speak with a friend of mine that's been through almost exactly the same, a guy friend of mine. And anyway, it was only a couple weeks later that I found out he took his life. And I just thought,
Oh,
man, it is, and this is not just one case that I know of. I just know that it's a really difficult thing. And I guess if somebody's listening, or if you know somebody, I mean, when I take calls from men as well, I'm like, you've got to take care of your own personal, emotional, spiritual, and get a support group around. So I love that you encourage them, and not only encourage them, but you encourage them to share that with other people so that they can
yeah.
remind them in those moments that they have
E-
support and they're not alone.
Exactly, exactly. But when you get to that level, I mean, the first question I ask in my customer intake form is their last physical exam. I need to know that
Mm,
because I mean, I want to know they're at an extremely high risk for depression.
mm,
So talk to a doctor about being ruled out for major depressive disorder. Talk to a
mm.
doctor, low testosterone, PTSD. A lot of guys are get PTSD during their divorce. So yeah, that is one of the first question. That is the first question I have in my customer intake form.
Yeah, and it sounds like you do a lot. I mean, one of the things that you really focus on is, I know you mentioned it about exercise, but is taking care of your own physical body.
Mhm.
Talk about, is that a foundational thing that you do with these men?
Yes, I have the honor, the privilege, I guess, of letting them know where they need to work on. Okay, so for instance, if they disleveled, I let them know. I don't break them down clearly none of that, but I let them know. Listen, man, you got to shave. Take this, take that. I need, especially when they're clients. I need to know what I'm working with. So every talk, every conversation I have with them is virtual because I need to know their environment, their background,
Mhm.
and how they're presenting themselves. Uh, a lot of the times, they'll present themselves and they're dark, in a dark area, bearded, and just exhausted, and you could see that in them. So I let them know exactly what they need to do in those particular situations. And I do recommend, once they sign up and we start getting them, moving them forward, the first thing that they're going to take with me though, it's what's called a strengths finders test,
Mhm.
which is, a lot of people, it's positive psychology. So a lot of people, what they do is they'll say, you know what you need to work on, you need to work on XYZ. That's what you need to work on. But that's daunting. It's exhausting trying to work on what you're not good at. um, it's work on what you're good at, and make them better, enhance them. So that's the first thing that they take a strengths finders test. It's through Gallup, and I'm sure you've heard of
Yep,
Gallup,
I
which is
have. I
very
love
well.
it. I think it's absolutely. I also teach it as well. Stay in
Oh, do
your
you?
stay in your lane, right? Your life's a lot
Yeah,
easier. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you've done the strengths finders.
Yes. I don't
Oh
remember all
wow.
my, it was a long time ago, but understand the concept that we capitalize on our strengths and
Mhm.
we delegate our weakness. Like, you don't need
Ex-
to be everything to everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the first part of the conversation that I have. Okay, so a lot of the times a guy will say, it validates them too, because they'll say, "Oh wow, yeah, yeah, oh wow, my ex told me the opposite. Now I see what you mean."
Hmm.
So so like, so it really does matter, and make them better, give them strategies to enhance what they're good at. So
Yeah. And so my question to you is, do you prefer working with people that are men that are going through divorce, or as they're rebuilding to get into the dating scene again?
dating the dating scene is extremely fun because there's so many ways to go about it. So
Yeah.
the average guy, what they do is they'll get their phone, right, and they'll take a selfie. What's up, and that's it. That's it. And it was a T-shirt, whatever, and
The bathroom scene, that, the
oh my god,
bathroom.
I figured out why guys take bathroom selfies, actually,
What?
because we don't. A lot of guys don't have mirrors around the house, so they use the bathroom mirror. That's why.
That is so funny, because I actually, you don't know this about me, but I worked for an online dating site doing their podcasting many, many years ago. So I used to interview dating coaches all over the country. And I actually
That's
had one
awesome.
of them on my podcast a couple weeks ago. All these years later, 15 years later, I'm like, yo, come back. You got to come back and come on the show again, because dating after divorce is a lot. It's just a different dynamic, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and it is interesting because dating online, there are men and women are just different. I mean, women are going to show a lot more social things, and they're going to say, "Look at all the stuff I do." The men show the dog, the the picture in the bathroom, and all the
Hmm.
girls are like, "Okay, here's another one," or a selfie that doesn't look good. And
Hmm.
anyway, so it's just, so you actually really like that kind of building them back up to take them back out into this dating scene and experiment.
Completely. The average guy gets about 2 to 5 likes a week on a dating app. That's what the
Mm.
research, my research has shown. But I'm sure you would have better research because you did that for so long.
Yep.
Uh, I I am not exaggerating when I say it's over 100 likes per week after they're done with me, and that's not an exaggeration. It is because they're getting shown more often, because the algorithm starts
Yep.
moving in their favor, and obviously the females start liking them. So uh, that does incredible for a man's self-esteem. They feel so like it's kind of like, oh, I don't need someone else to validate me, kind of thing. But then all of a sudden they do get validated by a bunch of people, and it's like, well, okay, maybe I do feel like I need to validate it. But as long as they use it and do it responsibly, is what I would say.
Yeah, my husband now, he had never done dating apps, anything. And so this he was only divorced for 6 weeks at the time that we met, but he got on the dating apps because his daughter put him on there, and he ended up with like 600 likes. And he's like,
Wow.
"Whoa, who are all these people?" Like, and it was like overwhelming for him, because he's like, "I went from I'm not handsome, I'm a loser, I'm horrible, I'm this, you know what I mean, to all of a sudden I'm like, oh, no, 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 people are seeing what you really are.
Yeah,
You're a catch." And it really did do a lot for his self-esteem.
it does.
Yeah.
It does, and that's healthy. Like people say, "Oh, wait to date," and the data, it actually shows that that to move forward, you should date. Now, let's define dating, right? Because it could be a bunch of things. It could be anything from a long-term relationship to just a booty call.
Mhm.
But as long as it's done in a manner where you actually go and do it responsibly, but have fun with it and do it to enhance who you are, to get to know yourself, style, to expand your social circle. That's when it helps you. But if you do it to get another long-term relationship, that's a future ex-wife in the calling.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you how long you recommend, because I mean, if you'd ask my husband, I think most people would never even touch him with a 10-foot pole. right? Because 6 weeks divorce is not enough time. However, I said to one of my girlfriends the other day, because she's like, oh no, I don't date within a year of them being divorced. I said, well, you would have missed a really great guy. So you just never know. You never know where people are in that process. And that's what I was going to ask you. And even if you're just starting to date, just use it as an experiment. Just have fun. You don't have to like get serious with anybody. If you happen to find one that you're like, hey, I'd like to get to know you a little bit more. But right now it's rediscovering who you are.
Completely. My first date from online dating, I was my ex-wife. She said, "You're a boring old man." That always stuck with me. Boring old man.
Boring old man. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, that was But on my first date, my very first date, when I go to say hi to the lady, the first thing she says is, "Oh my God, you're so much younger in real life." And I was like, I needed to hear that. Like, what are the odds of me hearing that? Because that stuck with me, the boring old man kind of thing.
I think that is so important. I know for me, when I was divorced the first time, I had just lost 130 pounds. And so I was a brand new me, and not in so many ways, right? Men were just responding differently to me. And I really was very intentional about when I dated as just relaxing and having fun, just enjoying myself, getting to know me, how I responded, my triggers, the things that attracted me to people, what attracted them to me. I mean, it's just a big experiment. And I love that you focus. So is most of your work on the dating side of it than the person that actually is going through divorce?
Are you meaning the litigation part?
No, I'm just like, when you take on a client, are they usually in the divorce and you're helping them through that whole divorce and then rediscovering, or is it mainly once they've gone through divorce, now they're
No. It's the sooner they get to me, the better, because a lot of the times they're like, "Oh, I want to get my crap together before," and I'm like, "Dude, you're doing it completely wrong." I mean, first of all, you got to realize what kind of attorney, if you're going to need an attorney. Second, if you do need an attorney, what kind of attorney you're going to get? People say bulldog. People say this. You need a closer. Do you need a negotiator? What kind of attorney do you actually need? That kind of stuff. But also at the same time, find out what they're naturally good at, and give them homework to do it. Give them also keep them exercising as well. I exercise regularly, and just before you and I did this call, and like I will send messages to my clients. I'll send, "Hey, come on, dude. Come on, man. I haven't seen anything." I haven't sent me messages as well. Like, so I have a lot of pictures of half naked guys because they're working out. So,
well, accountability is something that I am huge on. And the thing is that we do need people in our lives. And so we talk about this a lot on this podcast, is that if you can engage the right support, and if you're a man that's listening, if you have the right support in the very beginning, then you're going to avoid having to get attorneys that don't work with you. Or, you know what I mean? You're going to have somebody that you can actually explain to you how the situation happens, because you've actually been through it, Rene, right? Like, we know this. And you're also going to be able to say, hey, like, let's get going. This is what you're going to focus on today. It really does matter who we engage in that process. And the earlier you do that, the less damage has been done in order for us to take you in the right direction. Because I'm the same way too. If you call me like when you're deep in the mud, mucky muck, it's very difficult to unwind all of that. Then let's strategize from the beginning.
Exactly. And this is like something I wanted to point out is that, okay, so before I started this, about 15 years ago, a dear friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, highly successful, good father, took his son and adopted him. And his ex-wife, or his wife, she cheated on him, right? And left him in the dust. And I was like, how you doing? How's your family? How your kids? And my kids don't want to talk to me. And I'm like, whoa, that's messed up. You're a good dad. I don't get it. He had a restraining order. I'm like, oh my God, you're a good, what? That's like, so not you. And so that always stuck with me. As I did research, the more I did the research, is that I uncovered one thing: the children. The children don't want to be around somebody that's having a difficult time recovering.
Mm.
So the one
That
that
is very true.
yeah. So I don't even think. I mean, people will say they'll say parental alienation. That's my last resort. That's the last place I go to before I start thinking other things. I started asking them. It doesn't mean do they bad. It used to be like, do you badmouth the mom? Do they? No, I don't. But it's not that. It's their environment around the house. Are they inviting their kids? Are they winning? Are they engaging their kids in activities? Are they having fun? Are they present? Are they teaching their kids? It's really are they embracing the role? If they're dating, and get your kids involved, get them involved. Hey, what do you think of this picture?
Okay, Rene, you said something was very, very important. I think that I really hope that the listeners are listening to this, because I think kids are less tolerant to dads having bad days than moms. And when you're going through a divorce, that's the quickest way to push your kids away, is to show your vulnerability. And I'm not saying that you can't be vulnerable, but I think that having the support around you to be able to support you to be positive and kind and be upbeat with your kids, because I see that happen so many times where the men get alienated, or the kids get alienated from the dads. Because is it okay as a dad to feel the pain of what happened? Yes. However, having that be a part of their relationship with their kids, the kids get sideswiped. They're like, wait a minute, Dad, like, I don't want to be around. Just get over it, which I don't.
They say that too. The kids
do.
say that to their parents. Mom, Dad, get over it. Just move on.
Yeah, just get, and it's much harder than just get over it. But I love that you support men through that, saying, hey, okay, you can feel this, but let's process it here, or let's process it somewhere else other than in front of your kids, because that's only going to take them further away. You want to draw them to you during that. There's a time and place, is what I'm trying to say.
No, you're absolutely right. And, I have the guys, like, my job is to have them be better dads, but how do they be better dads? They focus on themselves. That if they focus on their kids, it's not going to work out. It's just not the kid. And if they focus on themselves, it's going to invite their kids forward. I remember when I went through my second divorce, I cried in front of my kids, right? And my kids were 9 and 12 at the time. And I looked at them and I go, man, I don't think you guys ever saw me cry. And one of them said, well, he has, but I've never seen you cry. So in other words, they talk about that. I saw Dad cry. It's that big a deal for them. And so it's kind of interesting to me that they behind my back were saying that I saw Dad cry, and it gets awkward to see them, because I'm sure maybe I could count in one hand how many times I've seen my dad cry.
Well, I think it's important to be real and authentic, because I'm not one for like, let's stuff everything. I think your kids need to see that you are a real human being and things hurt, and we're not going to discuss it because it's, Dad feels this way or Mom feels this way. But it's okay. Everything's going to be fine, because kids' brains are still developing, right? They're still, but my second husband, 18 years, he was separated or divorced from his ex-wife, and he was still fighting with her. And these are adult children that were like, Dad, like, please stop. You know what I mean? And it just really, it caused them more stress, and the kids feel it on a much deeper level than your best friend that's like, okay, give it to me. You know what I mean? Or a coach. And so it is really important. I do believe in transparency and healthy transparency. So my goodness. Well, thank you so much. I tell everybody kind of like where they can reach you if they know. What I found is that usually it's friends and families that watch these things. So if they have a friend, a male friend that is going through it, where do they find you?
They go to mensdivorcecoaching.com. That's mensdivorcecoaching.com. But I strongly recommend for the guys to just go to my YouTube channel. Just look for Divorce Coach for Men. Rene Garcia was one E at the end. divorce coach for men, and look at my videos. So that way they get an idea of my style, because I may not be for everyone. I'm not the touchy-feely guy. If they want somebody that's gonna like touchy-feely, that's great. That's great. But I'm a coach. I'm not a therapist. So I get, let's do this. Let's get a plan.
Let's move. And if that's where you are, and thank you so much again for everything that you do, because these men need it. And the more structure, it sounds like you're very structured. I love that. I'm a structured person too.
It has a program. It's a whole program.
Let's get out of the mucky muck and move. Let's move.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, so here's my last question that I'd love to ask everyone is, what does divorcing strong mean to you?
Divorcing strong. Wow, that's a great question. It would be making something of bigger than yourself from that. Something that you're not living afraid anymore. That you found yourself. That voice that you were always afraid to use and to talk, and accepting your person and validating yourself. That's what divorcing strong is. It's the ability to say, hey, you know what? I'm just like everyone else. I gotta accept who I am, my flaws, my good stuff. I bleed red. I like sex. I admit to who you are, what you like, and that's what divorcing strong is.
Oh, I love that. It is getting back to who you are and knowing and feeling that and living in that space, right? Because then you can attract the right person that actually sees that and values it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Oh, Rene, thanks for being willing to come on today. And you know, it was supposed to go longer anyway, because we need more to speak about.
You are so much fun. Thank you so much. This is a great time.
Well, then we did it right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you. Everybody reach out to Rene. If you feel like you're the right fit, go to his YouTube channel, check out his videos there, and all the information is there in the show notes. So hold on just 1 second, Rene. All right. Well, welcome. Thank you everybody for joining another episode of Divorcing Strong podcast with Rene Garcia. Man, I am a mover and shaker. So I appreciate people who are like, hey, let's get you out of that stuck space and move you quicker through the process, because divorce is just not easy. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy, but when you have somebody that's willing to really kick you in the rear end and go, let's create a much better life for you. And I love that he focuses on vision, look forward instead of staying stuck in the past. So thanks for joining us on another episode of Divorcing Strong podcast, and make sure you join us on all of the different platforms, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.